forced into my mind this made up glow. Now I've set free my mind. I let it go. If this life should last forever, at least we are together. I know I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. Anywhere, whenever, apart but still together. I know I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. It's not a glow. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. No, it's not a glow. Spinning ball earth. I now know that you're fake. Deceived since birth. I'm no longer being played. If this life should last forever, at least we are together. I know I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. Anywhere, whenever, apart but still together. I know I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. It's not a glow. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. Not alone. Alone. Not alone. I'm not alone. Not alone. Not alone. We know it's not a glow. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow. Not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. We know it's not a glow.
All right. Thank you for joining us this evening, everybody. This is a stream that I've been wanting to do for a while, to stream about being prepared, prepping, not hardcore prepping, but being prepared for any emergency that might come your way. Short term, maybe if you got to bug out of town, that sort of thing. And joining me for this discussion is none other than Mr. Mark Sargent. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Karen, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
You know, I have mixed feelings because obviously, you know, you and I don't want to necessarily add to the fear porn, and I've got to assure everybody, you know, first message, and I'm not ripping this off from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but don't panic. That's the first thing here. We're not trying to incite panic. At the same time, I'd like to steal a line from The Simpsons where they were saying when the ants, when they were mistaken that these ants that were in front of the camera on the space shuttle were made to look like giant. It's like, it's obvious our ant overlords have taken over the shuttle, and soon they'll be here. What I'm getting at is if anybody watched the press conference today, and where President Trump was flanked by members of just about every disease group there was, including the vice president, and then followed up, if you're in Washington State, they did a separate press conference where the governor of Washington State declared a state of emergency. Oh God. Monday is going to be such, and they have already tied it to Wall Street. They've already linked it to Wall Street. Even though a guy from Wall Street came on CNN a couple hours ago and said, it's not related. You can't tie the two together. It's like, it's too late. It's too late. We've already done that. Fox News literally put up there next to their stock ticker, coronavirus sell-off, which means as long as the virus is out there, the market's going to go down.
It does seem to be a big ploy to manipulate the economy.
Oh God, yes.
What I've been looking at.
Oh, there's facets to this which are brilliant in their complexity, because they're also going to tie it to the election, because it's an election year.
Exactly.
And again, you know me, I don't care. I haven't voted ever in my life, so Democrat, Republican, it doesn't really matter. But objectively, looking from the outside, it appears that, well, if the Democrats can't get a candidate that can beat Trump for his reelection campaign, then their best option is to try to wipe out any financial gains that have been put forward since he's taken office. And that's what appears to be happening right now. The stock market is just being chewed up in big bites. And, if they keep going the way they're going, within a couple months, it'll be down to the numbers to where before he took the presidency. And if that's the case, the average person on the street, who says, like, well, as long as the economy's doing well, I'll vote for whoever, I'll reelect whoever's in office. Well, now they, if that keeps going, then they can't use that as their backup plan. So, oh my God, I don't know where to start though. Let me mention this, and I'll throw this out at you, and I want your opinion, which is, so I read a thing in the CDC today. It was a little blurb on CNN where they said, because I've been looking for this, like, okay, how can you catch this, right? And they say, well, if you're in close proximity within 6 feet of a person that has it for an extended period of time, then there's a likelihood that you'll catch it. And I thought, okay, you mean like an airplane? Like that's 6 feet, where you've got 30 people within 6 feet of you at any given point, and all of you are sharing the same 2 bathrooms for 9 to 12 hours. That sort of containment system. Because and that's why I've been, you've heard me say this on the show. I'm going to keep saying it though, and that's what makes me suspect. And I'll tell everybody, officially, my official stance is you're looking at a controlled event. Does that mean that there's no threat? No, I'm not going to say that at all. There may be a threat, but it is being absolutely paced and staggered in intervals at a slow enough rate that the public can't absorb it. Because
right.
This part, no disease person's ever going to be ignored. That's why it's the one thing the movies got right. And that is, once the disease hits an airplane and that airplane goes to an international hub, that's it. It goes everywhere in 1 week. That's it. That's it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Unless you shoot down that plane, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And because those people, let's say we'll just say China just for the heck of it, right? Let's say somebody flew from China to Los Angeles. Once it hits LAX, those people branch off and go on other flights in self-contained flights where you're within 6 feet of 30 people. You all share in the same bathrooms, and then those flights go everywhere. It is the plot of every disease thing that's ever been written, whether it's been a movie or television show or a book. It's always the same, and everyone's agreed. It's like once it hits, you can't let it get to a major airport, which is why. Sorry, I ramble. But I gotta get this out, which is why when I started hearing some of the doctors, on different news services say, "Oh yeah, the border closings are going to do nothing at this point." It's like, yeah, so why are you closing the borders? And it's like, well, it'll delay things a bit. It's like, where does that logic come into? You're not delaying anything anywhere. So the cases that are being announced, and I'm sorry that the first fatality was announced in Washington State, not very far from here. But we're talking about an event that should have transpired over a much, much quicker time frame. That's what I'm saying. If the first case was announced somewhere around Christmas of last year, and tomorrow is March, it should have already hit in waves everywhere, and it hasn't. So that being said, which is why I made the video, and we'll talk about this, or made a survival guide, not necessarily about the corona. I wrote the survival guide after Katrina, but I did it because if it reaches its logical next steps, eventually, or I shouldn't say eventually, possibly you could run into a situation where the powers that be, whether it be your local, state, or federal government, says, oh yeah, by the way, stay home and don't talk to anybody. Basically self-isolate. And if that happens, well, you should probably be taking some steps in that direction. How's that for an intro?
Fantastic.
and let me open. Anyone can ask me for this. I wrote a survival guide after Katrina. The reason why I wrote it was that what pissed me off more than anything about Katrina wasn't how the government handled things. I really thought Katrina was just an exercise to see what people would do in that sort of weird survivalist situation where the entire city gets wiped out and everyone gets relocated, which is, so the entire New Orleans just gets wiped out and the city, and the population leaves. Only half of them came back, but most of the people that came back still didn't put aside any food or water or batteries or flashlights or anything. It was like they were waiting for lightning to strike again. It's like, well, it'll never happen again. It's like, what are you talking about? You just spent like 3 or 4 weeks in living hell, running from walls of water, and you coming back and it's like you're willing to go through that again without any supplies whatsoever. So that's why I wrote the manual. The manual is designed for any long-term isolationist or even short-term isolationist setting. So whether it be a power outage or martial law or zombies, a meteor, take your pick. This'll cover you. And as a matter of fact, it was designed specifically for Americans because Americans are so lazy. It's like, oh, I don't want to prep. It's hard.
Oh, I know. Mark. Oh my God, his screen froze. Look at the way the screen froze with his face.
It's like you buy insurance for everything.
Oh, I know.
Back? Hello?
Mark.
What?
Are you?
Am I back?
Yeah, okay.
What happened? What happened? I missed it. What?
Oh my God.
What was
You
I
have to
saying?
go back and you'll see in this stream after the way your face froze.
Was it bad?
Yes.
Did I look like a crazy person? Thanks, Karen. Yep, that's the show. Good night, everybody. Oh, short show.
And now I can't stop laughing.
All right. Anyway, so if anyone wants this manual, it's a PDF file. It's only 2 megs. I give it out absolutely for free. You can just email me at msargent23@comcast.net. That's MS, Karen's crying, MSARGENT23@comcast.net. And I'll give you the manual for free, and it should be free. Look, if it helps anyone, if it saves their life, my only request is that you don't do the obvious thing and put it on your phone and then not print it out, because then you're going to be subject to, hey, my phone's running out of batteries. I wonder what he says about looting. And then all of a sudden the phone dies and you don't know. It's a cliffhanger. Don't do that. Print it out. It's only 100 pages. Print it out somewhere. Just anywhere. Just print it out. I don't care what kind of printer you have. Dot matrix. You okay, Karen?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Dot matrix printer.
That was just really. Ooh.
So seriously, you can
Really
email me
laugh.
during this, and I don't know if I'll be able to send it to you because I shut off my email because I think it was my email that caused that little freak out. But
Yeah,
the guide's called Empty Shelves. It is designed literally for any long-term stay where you're basically on your own. You and your family are on your own, power or no power. And honestly, things are actually, if you still have power, you're in great shape.
Oh,
You're in
sure.
wonderful shape by comparison. If the water is still running, if the taps are still running and you're drinking tap water and the power is still running, you're great.
Well, and the water coming out of the taps is okay, then yeah, you're
You're fine. When the power goes out, well, that's when things change, and the power stays out. And now I don't expect the coronavirus to do that because it is such a. I don't want to beat a dead horse here because you've heard me say this before, but it is so slow. It is being rolled out so slowly that it's painful for me to watch. because again, if you're in, look, I did 2 episodes in Strange World literally on apocalypse movies. Things move quickly. They move quickly. This is the slowest pacings I've ever seen in my life. I mean, but the part that gets me, like today, was they were talking about, Trump and Pence and all the CDC people up top, and they were saying low risk. It's a low risk of you catching it. But then they started doing mixed messaging. So it's low risk, but we're issuing higher travel advisories, and no one's going to China or Iran or South Korea. It's low risk, but you probably should expect to catch it. It's low risk, but there's only a 20% chance you're going to be hospitalized. It's like, what? 20% hospitalized, the entire country potentially, and yet there's only 100,000 intensive care beds in the whole country at any given one time. It's, they're throwing all these mixed messages. So they're saying don't panic, and I'm seriously saying don't panic because it's a rolled out event. There's no question in my mind. It's a rolled out event. Don't panic. But they're doing the way they're saying don't panic is straight out of 2012 with John Cusack. When the authorities say don't panic, that's when you run.
Yeah.
Because and of course that's what they're going to say. There's a wonderful quote by President Roosevelt back in the day, which is never tell them how bad it is. And so, if somebody blew it, if this thing was absolutely legitimate, here's the one. I'm sorry, I get off track, but I got to get this out. If this was a legitimate, full-blown virus thing, somebody right now, we would be hearing, and I don't care if there's somebody down the road in Washington State that supposedly died from it. Find me somebody, degrees of separation, that is linked to us or somebody in chat or one of my family members or somebody that knows somebody. Social media is so interconnected. We should have seen this by now. It's like, oh, my friend's cousin's former roommate's boyfriend got it, and he's hospitalized. Give me those stories. Tell me where. Tell me when. Give me faces. Give me names. Don't give me numbers and states. I don't want to see it. All right. So let's get into what's important. Let's say you have to not necessarily bug out, but let's say you have to hunker down.
Down, yeah.
Because bug out's the worst case scenario. Bug out means that your home is in jeopardy. Yeah. And you've got to make a run for it. There's a meteor, there's a tsunami, there's obviously zombies. Well, zombies you wouldn't necessarily have to run. But let's say that happens. What's the most important thing for you?
The most important thing for me would be is power still on? I'm getting an echo. Am I getting an echo through you, Mark?
No.
I can hear myself.
Can you? Can you still hear yourself?
I don't know.
How about now?
Let me check. Little bit.
I turned it down. It should be okay.
All right. Anyway, are we talking about hunkering down for what kind of scenario?
Well, let's just go with the Corona thing. And then let's go. Let's see. The power's still on because why would the power turn off? Mm-hmm. To be honest. So if the power, we'll do power on or power off power on, then power off. So if the power's still on, what's the most important
thing? Well, I guess the most important thing for me would be food. Yeah. Having enough food to stay in the house for the amount of time they want you to stay in the house.
Right.
For. Sanitation, make sure that is going still okay. Heat.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I didn't even think of that, which is, do you still do the garbage truck thing if this thing gets weird? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, we've seen. Well, that's not that you should follow what happens in the movies necessarily. I happened to rewatch Contagion a few months ago, not because of the coronavirus. By the way, sorry. On a side note, did you see the headlines where I knew it was going to happen, where they're saying Corona beer is just dying?
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah, it's over.
Is it? Really?
Coronavirus doomed. If this thing keeps going for another 6 months, Corona. In fact, one of the headlines was, "This could not be a worse time to be to be coronavirus."
Why?
Because it's subliminal. Don't forget that there was here. I'll give you a perfect example. Even though
Not that Corona beer is that great, but I mean,
again, people, it's subliminal. It sticks in. You remember there was a breath mint back in the 80s. You probably don't. You weren't old enough. Back in the 80s, called AIDS. Yeah. 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 It's not around anymore, as far as I know, because it's subliminal. You don't. It's like, well, it has no effect on my purchasing ability. But yet, when you go into the store, it's like, yeah, I think I'll go with a domestic, maybe, or some micro brew. You're not going to do it. Okay, so yes, but sorry, if you're going by the Contagion movie playbook, and that was one of those things they didn't really talk about, which was garbage pickup was like abandoned almost immediately, because you're talking about waste products from people that you don't know if they're infected or not, and garbage guys, I don't care if you're wearing bodysuits and rubber gloves, you're not getting paid enough.
Just burn it. It. Just burn it.
Yeah, just burn your trash. If you can, if you're in a rural setting. Now, if you're in a cul-de-sac, I don't recommend getting some wooden pallets and just burning it on the pavement. But if you're in a long-term thing, if you're worried about sanitation, absolutely. So if the power is still on, you don't have to worry about much. I mean, getting to the grocery store, if that was the case, let's run into
and so would people be going to work? Would grocery stores be being resupplied with food? I mean, I don't know.
That's just it. It's an unknown, because you're talking about potentially handling stuff that's also going to be touched by people, which is why in Contagion they talked about that as well, where Matt Damon goes to the grocery store with his daughter. All of a sudden they notice a woman who's coughing, touching soup cans. And he's like, "Yeah, put it all down. We're we're out of here." Do you take that chance? We're not in that any sort of level yet, but the way they're staging it, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's like, okay, do you sanitize grocery cans? Did the truck still roll? You don't know. It really depends how contagious they make it. Right now, they're just saying that they're not really telling you anything. They're saying, "Oh yeah, it's contagious." Again, mixed messages, but don't worry about it. It's contagious, but you're probably going to get it. It's like, wait, I thought you said don't worry about it. And if it's such a low risk, why are you doing a national press conference Saturday morning with literally everybody? It's not like you just had Pence up there. It was Pence and Trump and the head of the CDC and the head for allergy and communicable diseases and all this other stuff. The only thing they didn't have that there was the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which anyway, sorry. I get riled up by this. Every time I see the headlines, it just kills me. Because and by the way, while this is all happening, the Democratic primary, in fact, it's in your state. How's that for coincidence? Right now, in fact, the results. Somebody in chat, tell us what the results were.
Should you also pay attention to politics?
Well, this has a bearing on what's going to be happening moving forward. Who won South Carolina? Anyone in chat?
Everybody's like, we don't pay attention to that crap.
Just pop open. Do I have to pop open CNN and find out who won South Carolina? Because it's a big deal, because the Democrats are going to be using this. There's going to be fuel being poured into this from both sides, because even though the administration is going to be saying current administration is going to say we're doing a great job containing this, and they're going to pat each other on the back and they're going to say, "Oh, this is wonderful," and we've got this, we got a handle on this. The Democrats are going to go on the other side and saying they're not doing enough. This is way worse than people are talking about. Because they have to amp it up to make it look like the administration's been doing a terrible job.
Oh Lord, Joe Biden.
Really?
Joe Biden is winning. What's wrong with you, South Carolina?
Is that in CNN?
I don't know. I just Googled it and then it just brought up the report. Anyway,
Wow.
looks like
Let's
Biden is in the lead by a lot.
really Biden's in the lead by a lot.
51%. Bernie Sanders is at 18%.
Wow, that's impressive considering 2 weeks ago everybody said that Biden was dead. You know, dead politically, not really
Yeah,
dead, but
yeah.
but they didn't have a chance.
Yeah, he's a sicko. I don't know why anybody would want to vote for him.
That's amazing. So what? Okay, so let me go into a little bit more about what I think is going to happen here with the virus moving forward. What the stories they're going to and what you should expect. And by the way, the stories about that they're producing. I love this. It's like stocks are tanking. If you guys hadn't been following this, and I don't have anything in the stock market, other people do, I know, but the stocks just took huge chunks out this last week. But some of the stocks that were doing better were the people that were making air filtration masks, which is of course silly. And doctors, there's wonderful articles out there now that say the masks really don't do anything. The general public at this point shouldn't buy any masks because they're the size of the micron. The micron size is you're not going to get a mask unless you have a full blown respirator. You're not stopping anything. It's like anything. It's like when like cigarette smoke. If somebody's wearing like a hay fever mask, you blow cigarette smoke at him, he's gonna smell it. Plain and simple. And they're producing the government has recently negotiated a new contract with 3M. They make most of those masks because they're distributing most of the masks are going to the hospitals to put on patients and healthcare workers because that will help. I think maybe it's gotta do something. I'm not sure. At least symbolically, it does something. Like when I did that thing over in UK recently. I don't know why they did this, but the hotel staff, for the restaurant, for like the breakfast people who happened to be all Asian for some reason, they were all wearing masks, all of them. Everyone from the hostess to the people the guy that bust your table, the whole 9 yards. They were wearing masks. I don't know why. And of course, and the people, you can look on Amazon and other places. There's price gouging for masks because people think that people panic. And I'm trying to tell people like, look, don't. I know I'm getting excited and I seem like I'm a little amped up, but don't panic because it's again a rolled out, staggered, completely manufactured event that wherever it's going to lead, it's going to take weeks, if not months, to get there. Whatever the inevitable conclusion of this is going to be.
I think that's going to take months to get there.
Yeah, I would think so too. I would think the stock market's going to keep getting hammered. And because you want to milk this, you want to say, oh, there's 50 cases now in this state and 50 cases, why Washington has the first fatality? I have no idea because people that were flying from China, they fly everywhere. They fly to LaGuardia, they fly to LAX, they fly to Atlanta. There's Chinese international flights going everywhere. So
I don't know.
Why they're singling out Washington, I don't know.
Because you guys are the closest, besides Alaska.
How does that work? What do you mean closest? Los Angeles.
I don't know. People don't bullshit.
Yes, there's a larger Asian population here, but there's also a whole bunch of the Asian community is big in Vancouver, which is right up the road. But not talking about that. In fact, Canada has been awfully quiet about this. We haven't seen much in their thing. But anyway, as far as prepping goes, if it's the virus, the power's not going off. That the power's never going off if it's just the virus. So at that point, you're just really worried about food. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Everything else works. everything else works, and you don't have to sweat anything unless you don't drink tap water, in which case you might want to filter water by means pick up some extra water filters.
Yeah.
But and I talked about this in the manual. It was really a short section, which is as long as the power's on, tech, you're good. I mean, you got entertainment, you got heat, you'll be fine. Sanitation shouldn't be affected right away. We were talking about the school. So like the governor of Washington State declared a state of emergency, right? Which means it gives the you get federal funding for that, and you also it gives a license basically to any business or school to close if they want. Well, if the governor declared emergency, let's close down our school district, so the kids may be home, if that's the case. But if the power goes off, let's go another way. Let's go outside the coronavirus for now. Enough of that. You guys know what's going to happen. Just keep watching the news. And watch how slow this motorcycle crash happens, because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking
right.
Super. That's why it's so painful for me. It's super slow motion. It's like, oh my god! It's like I'm watching a plot thing in a movie where it's taking him forever, to get out the dialogue, and it's not. It's like, just say it. Just say the sentence. That's all you have to. You don't have to draw it out. If for whatever reason, and this is in the manual, we'll go over this, and you and I can debate this. If the power goes off, well, then things change quickly. Let's say it is why would the power go off? Earthquake. Perfect example. That's what usually when you buy the stuff online, earthquake kits, right? Earthquake will knock out power in 2 seconds because it wipes out gas lines and power lines and all that. And it's not going to get. And if it's a big enough earthquake, they're not coming back on for a while.
Yeah,
if that's the case,
I've been through that. Have you been through that?
An earthquake?
Mm-hmm.
No.
That knocked out your power that you didn't come on for a while.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's there was
anywhere.
The what?
And couldn't drive anywhere. Or...
Well, it's not that they forbid driving, but the stoplights were all out. So it was a pain in the ass. That was when I was in Boulder. There was a rolling brownout in the late 90s. There's some sort of weird cascading effect where the whole western half of the United States went down. And we weren't down for that long, but it was, you could see the short-term, long-term thing, which was people in the very, very short term. The big key when it comes to a power outage is when the power goes out, unless you know, and I wrote about this in the manual, unless you know what's going on, you just kind of go into a state of limbo. You freeze. It's like, huh. Everyone just kind of mills around. It's like, well, the grocery store people are like, well, you gotta leave the store, because the registers aren't working, the scanners aren't working. And so everyone kind of sits in the parking lot, and it's like, and then they eventually just kind of drift away. I was like, I'm not waiting for the power to come back on, and the lights don't come back on. So the traffic, the police will go into the middle of the intersections with their whistles, and they'll point people in different directions for like a major intersection, because you don't know it. That's the big thing. If you don't know why the power's off, that's when everything's fine. Everything is actually pretty civil. But when the power goes off and you know exactly why it went off, like a big earthquake, right, that you were in the middle of, that's when things get ugly in a hurry. There was were you in California during the Northridge earthquake?
Northridge?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know, but I was living in the San Francisco Bay Area during the Loma Prieta earthquake, which is the big one that hit in 1989 during the World Series.
Oh yeah. How was that?
That was crazy. That was the craziest earthquake ever. I mean, obviously, growing up in California in that area, I went through a lot of earthquakes.
Yeah,
a lot. But that one was. It was noticeably different when it happened, but where I was, like, I was out in the country. I was out riding my horse, and I had just gotten off my horse, and I put her back in the pasture, and the earthquake started, and I was like in this pasture full of horses, and the horses started bolting in every direction, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get run over by a horse. So I started running towards the fence, towards the exit. um and then when I finally got to where, right near the exit, the earthquake stopped. But it didn't just stop. Like usually when there's an earthquake, it goes and then it just stops and it's done.
Yeah.
This one, it was like it stopped, like the rumbling stopped, but literally the earth like had to settle back into place. Like it went like this. It was like,
Really?
yeah, like it was crazy. I remember like I had to stand there and put my hands out and balance. Like I don't even know how I ran from the pasture to the fence without falling, knowing now like how violently the earth was shaking during that earthquake. But literally, I was like, I had to put my arms out and balance myself because it was swaying it was like being on a boat for a second. It was
Wow.
it was crazy. That was crazy.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's when the bridge crashed and San Francisco fell into the ground almost.
Yeah,
mess.
I remember some of the freeways pancaked. It was brutal. There
Mhm.
was a lot of weird stuff that happened. In Southern California, when one of the bigger earthquakes hit, what was interesting was, and I'd never seen this before, was when the shopping mall footage. So a lot of people don't know. They think, well, the power goes off, all the security cameras go off. Well, not even back then. Nowadays, of course, there's battery backups for everything.
Mhm.
But back then, the battery backups showed it was like once it was shake, 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 power goes off, and then everyone froze in the shopping malls for, I don't know, maybe 5 seconds. And then all of a sudden, it's like once the first person started looting, the stores were just ransacked immediately.
Oh.
Because why not? It's like, well, full well the cops are going to be extremely busy doing other things, and the odds of you getting caught were slim. And so they looted all the the stupid stuff first, electronics and booze and cigarettes and anything, the short-term items. And that was the big difference. That was one of the inspirations for writing the manual, was that I watched what people do during this sort of crisis situations. And of course, the Katrina thing was even worse, because there were parts of Katrina that even the cops wouldn't go into at night, because once because it was dark. It's bad during the daytime when the power goes out, but at nighttime it's super, super dark, and it's very, very precarious. So the first things I put on any list, you want the really short version of what you need in let's say in an earthquake scenario when the power goes out.
Yeah.
3 things. And after that, these are the top 3 things: water, food, light sources, and then whatever you want to defend it with. Water, obviously, because people don't understand how much water you go through, and dehydration is a terrible thing to suffer. I don't know if you've ever gone through serious dehydration. I've done it a few times. It's painful. It's an awful, awful thing. Human body does not like being dehydrated. You go through it is extremely painful.
I've heard.
Yeah, and again, you can't go without water for only like 3 days before you really start suffering.
Mhm.
Food you can go without for a long stretch of time.
You can go quite a while without food. Yeah.
Yeah, especially Americans.
Yeah.
Americans
should go quite a while without.
That's the part that always sucked for me, and I wrote that in the manual. I said, if you packed on a whole bunch of weight, as long as you have water, you will not die. Because again, you're a mammal. It's why bears, they hibernate and they're super skinny when they crawl out of the hole. But food, number 2, light sources are number 3, even above for me, like first aid and weaponry, because it is so dark. People forget that if you've never lived, unless you've lived in a real rural environment. I mean, if you shut off your house lights, there's nothing around you. It's dark.
Yes.
You walk out in the woods, you just don't know how dark truly the world really is. If the moon's not out, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's very dark.
You got nothing. I mean, you can't see 2 feet in front of your face, and if it's cloudy, you don't even get starlight. It's awful, awful, awful. And then something to defend it with, and I even left it open-ended. For Americans, I said, look, if you're not into guns, if you're not a fan, it's like, oh, I never own a gun. Yeah, it's like, all right, fine, get a knife, get a golf club, get a baseball bat, whatever you think. If you think your tire iron will save you,
Iron, crowbar.
great, fantastic. But know this: if you decide to do this, eventually you're going to run into somebody. This is America. There's a lot of people with guns, and I cannot tell you the amount of people I have talked to who've gotten my manual, that they all say the same thing to me. And this spooked me the more I heard it, which is, I don't need to get a lot of canned food and water. Why not? I got a gun. I'll just take yours. It's like, really? And the first 10 times I heard that, I was going, well, maybe I just got 10 people that with some social disorders. But no, I mean, that's what a lot of people think. They just think, well, yeah, that's all I need. I will loot immediately. Just know that if you're going to try and hold on to something, I don't care what it is.
I don't recommend that, even if you think you are a badass, people like that are stupid though, because there's going to be plenty of people who are willing to defend what they have.
Yes. And they don't know that. You're right. You're absolutely right.
You're ready for that. So you're basically right off the bat, you're risking your life. You're the whole point of this is to survive. And if that's what you depend on to survive is going out and looting from other people, well, right off the bat, you have reduced your risks of survival because somebody is going to bust your ass.
Oh yeah, you may get lucky the first few people. It's like, oh my, you think your neighbors, like, oh, my neighbors are pacifists. I got them. It's like, yeah, it's fine. But then you're going to keep rolling those dice, and eventually you're going to run into somebody that's got way more initiative than you do. And so just don't do it. That's what I'm saying. Don't go with that mindset. Seriously, start with the basics. Water, food, light sources, and play the defensive game. Because it's again, it was shocking how many people I talked to that's what they were into. It was like, oh yeah, rifle, or handgun. And also, by the way, don't be one of those people.
Are they being serious or are they just being smartasses?
No, they're not being smartasses. No. That's their, because it's the lazy option. They've watched too many movies and television shows. Is, you watch enough Walking Dead episodes. It's like, oh, it's obvious. What I need is a crossbow. It's like, what? No. No. I mean, crossbow's fine, but no. So, like in the chapters in the book, here, let me rattle them off real fast. After the situational awareness type thing, it's like, okay, first thing, if you ever run into like an earthquake scenario, it's figure out what your situation is. What are you going to do? Are you going to go to family? What are your priorities right now? Are all your family members home? What are your neighbors? Are you friends with your neighbors? Do you have in-laws? Are you going to be basically the short version is, are you going to stay where you are? Are you going to someone else's house? You got to make that decision pretty quick. And if you don't have the gas to do it, then you're not going, because it's like, oh, I'll just get gas on the way. It's like, no, you're not getting gas on the way. You're staying home.
Or you don't even know the gas line to get gas might be down around the block, around the corner, a mile long. You don't know.
You absolutely don't know. The chapter 4 I have, it's called The Important Things, and that goes into, water, food, light sources, something defended, first aid kits, blah, 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 blah. And then chapter 5 is One Man's Trash, which is the stuff that you may not think is valuable, but other people may think is valuable. And number 6 goes even into further, which is trading material. Don't discount the stuff. People are people, and the rules of every apocalypse thing you've ever read and watched still do apply, which is, do you remember The Postman with Kevin Costner from years ago, where in the very beginning of the movie, he knocks over a cigarette vending machine, and there was like 10 or 12 packs jammed in the back that just fell out, and his opening line was, "I'm rich." And he was, because 12 packs of cigarettes, if there's no cigarettes out there, become extremely valuable. The vices, and I have a thing on vices, which is anything you can think of that doesn't get manufactured anymore and is considered, iffy, whether it be alcohol or any tobacco products or prescription drugs or whatever, they become valuable. Plain and simple. If and people will trade, a lot. They will make, they will sacrifice ridiculous things for those, for those items. I go into a chapter called Rock, Paper, Scissors, Gun, which talks about, weapons, what we were talking about here. It's like, look, again, you don't like guns. That's fine. Just know that eventually you're going to do that, bringing a knife to a gunfight. That's never going to end well. Plus, I have to mention also how important ammunition is.
Yes.
Because there was a study that the Germans did for one of the first studies, and that was in World War II, something like 80-something% of the people in a gunfight, the people that lost the gunfight, it wasn't because of aiming or anything like that. They just ran out of bullets. Two sides being equal, if you run out of bullets and the other guy still got ammunition, well, start running, because that's all he has to do is close the distance. Once he knows once he knows, click, 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 click. Once he hears that, it's like, oh, okay. He breaks cover and walks over. So don't be that guy that gets a brand new handgun and a single box. It's like, oh, I'll have a box of 50 shells, please. And that's it. And you don't open it. And it's like, 50 shells will be fine. It's like, you have no idea how quickly, which is why all the movies, when they get it wrong, when they're just eating through shells like popcorn, it's like, are you kidding? Those things are like gold.
I know. Ammo isn't cheap.
What?
Well, ammo is not cheap.
No, depending on what you're looking at. No, I mean, 22 ammo is not bad, but everything bigger than a 22 or bigger than a 20. Uh-oh. This is zombies. Bigger than a 25. So yeah, ammo, very, very important. At least 1,000 rounds per weapon is conservative. And that gives you a little flexibility. So between those things, and there's so many things I could go over here, as far as, in fact, we could go over some. Hang on. Homemade pepper spray. You want to read through some of the chat?
Homemade pepper spray. Wait, what?
People are chiming in. My bow is important to me. Your gunpowder will run out. Sure. In fact, I have a chapter on that literally called "When the Bullets Run Out." It's chapter 10, which is, if your bullets run out, sure, there's all sorts of different things you can go to. But if you have a rifle, don't open with a bow. Ted Nugent was not going to win a fight like that. Again, bringing a bow to a gunfight better than bringing a knife, but it's not going to. Let me see here. Don't trade your ammo. Yep, very good.
Yeah,
don't trade your ammo off. Yeah, no, it's very, very valuable. If you are going to trade your ammo, make sure you get something good for it.
What would be worth trading ammo for?
Well, if you got a lot of ammo, what he's saying is, don't give ammo to somebody that doesn't have it.
Oh,
it's like, I'm out of shotgun shells. Can you trade me for 6? And it's like, that point, you gotta look at him going, crap. Is he going to use those? Is he going to use those shells against you right away?
Exactly.
Sure, why not? Here, let me go over some of the stuff in the manual really quick. So let me get past
slingshot. That is actually, yeah, I see slingshot. That is a good thing to have in your arsenal.
Let me rattle off. I'm just going to go through some of these. So the important things, chapter 4, water, absolutely top of the list, followed by food, followed by light sources. I know I do have a chapter in there on cannibalism, but that's just because people have asked before. And it's like, seriously, 99% of you are not going to do cannibalism. So when I put in like yeah, I know, but I have to bring it up because people ask. It's like, what about cannibalism? And I was like, it's probably not going to work out real well. Because you've either got to be in a frozen environment like Alive, that movie where that soccer team crashed in the Andes.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't good. Or you're like a master smoker. But I don't know. But if you want to know what people taste like, they taste like veal. There you go. That's what I read.
They were supposed to taste like pork.
No. Everything I've read says veal. I don't have a lot of veal though.
No. I've tried it. Everything I've read says veal.
No, no, not me. What, have I got the shakes? What's happening? So, let's see, flashlights, lanterns, candles, any sort of light source. I have a whole section on light sources. Candles are not, the last Shefford light sticks, road flares.
Candles have multiple uses too. You can also use the wax, shave a little bit of wax from the candle to help start your fire if you need to start a fire.
Right. Let's see, fireplaces, cars. Okay, generators. I'm kind of mixed on that because generators are super, super loud.
Yeah.
And the other thing, which is, if you have a generator and your house is powered, no offense, just take this into account. If your house is powered and the rest of your neighbors are close and they're not powered, knocks are going to be on your door constantly. Not necessarily in a threatening thing, but they're going to be bugging you constantly. He's like, hey, he's like, hey, we're neighbors, right? We went to that barbecue together. Whatever. Let's see, batteries.
Gas?
What?
I'd be like, you got some gas to put in my generator?
Yeah, there you go. Which is a whole nother thing, which is gasoline. It has a shelf life. Obviously, it's not exactly like milk, but after about 18 months, it starts to get a little sketchy, depending on temperature and where you're storing it and stuff like that. But yeah, how much gas do they have? And don't screw it up by like having them give their pre-mixed lawnmower gasoline as trade.
Oh, yep.
That'd be bad. Fire extinguishers, always good. If you have an RV, not a terrible idea. If you're thinking of bugging out. First aid kits, I actually put first aid kits so far down the list because compared to everything else, because there's makeshift first aid kits and
my first aid kit.
Oh, that's good. It's nice. It's good to have, but is it in my top 5 or even top 10 things? No. I mean, yeah, you'll be bumping and bruising. Oh, that's another thing. Part of the no panic strategy of survival. Very nice, Karen. Karen's showing off the.
I bought. It's got like a compass. It's got, scissors, gauze.
Sure.
It's decent.
When I was
if it gets hurt, it's better to have it and not need it.
Of course. When I was thinking about first aid kits, the first thing that came to mind was don't run anywhere. When I say don't panic, I mean treat everything. In fact, slow down. If anything, don't run faster. It's when you pick up the pace and run that you tend to get into accidents that you normally would. You trip over stuff, especially if the power's out. When the power's out, you're going to trip over your own furniture. So don't do that. Try to minimize the chances of injuries. That's the better advice than going out. And I mean, there's some wonderful first aid kits out there. Don't get me wrong, and they could become in handy. This
one is pretty little. I mean, it's small. You could just keep this in your car. You could put it, in your glove box or whatever, or in your bug out bag if you have a bug out bag. Or
I hear you.
And you can grab and go. It's in its own little case.
Light pharmaceuticals, always good to put in your first aid kit if you have them. Don't use them up or don't throw them away. Pharmaceuticals, I know they have an expiration, like anything does, but they are very useful, and also extremely tradable. Power inverters, always good. Water purification tablets or better, water filters if you have them. Sleeping bags, make sure you break those out. Tents. I'm kind of mixed on tents because unless you're actually staying outside, fine. Tents indoors might not be too bad if you have any roof leaks or if there was earthquake damage to where you're exposed to the elements. Sure. Why not?
Or if you were in a big area and you wanted privacy.
Yes.
With multiple people.
Also good. Gas siphon. Also always good because there's going to be tons of people that aren't going to be driving anywhere and don't want to let that gas go to waste. Potential cash on hand, but I also mentioned that cash isn't going to be worth much. I mean, you could go out and rob a bank, but not going to, it's the durable goods that are going to be worth more than anything. Extra clean clothes, backpacks are always good. Toilets, you don't have to worry about those too much because they run off of just water pressure. They don't need anything. Toilet paper, kind of a big thing. There was a wonderful t-shirt that I read years ago, which says the apocalypse doesn't start until the toilet paper runs out. I'm a big believer in that. But there are, of course,
I don't agree that that's not really that big of a deal necessarily.
what toilet paper?
Yeah.
Well, some people in chat, I think, would disagree.
I think that you could, I mean, you could, it's better to have it, obviously, but
Right.
you can use fabric. You can use scrap fabric and then wash the fabric and then reuse it
Nice.
if you really needed
Oh,
toilet.
and I give options there for toilet paper. Kleenex, paper napkins, paper towels, newspaper, crumpled up copy paper, torn up clothing. But if you're going to do any of that, burn it. That's also the big thing. If it's not going down the septic system, burn it, just for sanitary reasons. Portable stoves aren't too bad. Portable toilets, probably should get some of those just in case your regular toilet dies. And those are just 5-gallon buckets with a lid on top. Let's see here. Durable clothing. Sure, you know all about that. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy fatigues, but durable clothing, denim, heavy jackets, decent hats, boots, footwear, important. Get something. I mean, your tennis shoes may be fine, but a pair of boots goes a long way. Of course, with that, extra socks. Let's see here. Police scanner. That's one of those options.
Someone in chat said chocolate will be the real gold. I bet.
The what?
Chocolate.
Oh yeah, you bet. In fact, I think I've got that in there somewhat. Earplugs. People don't understand. If you're practicing, if you're shooting outdoors, earplugs isn't that big a deal. But if you've ever fired any rounds inside a house or inside an enclosed structure, wow, that'll ring you. Yeah, so earplugs, kind of a big deal. Can openers, often overlooked. Manual can openers.
Yes, manual can openers or those little P38 things. Remember those?
Yeah. Not everything has a pop top. I know there's a lot of those out there, but not everything has it.
Right.
And we all assume it's like, well, the soups and yeah, but some don't. Let's see here. Two-way radios are nice. As far as entertainment,
it's not a bad idea to have, or not, but a utility tool.
Oh, yep. Multipliers, utility tools are great, especially if you're going to be walking around and doing stuff. Let me go over the chapter on smoke 'em if you got 'em. Tradable things. Ready? Liquor, number one. Any form of alcohol will absolutely be tradable. No question. I don't.
So a good skill to have would be to learn how to make alcohol, which is actually pretty easy.
Yes. If you're a homemade beer maker or you do any sort of wine stuff or
any sort of fermenting mead.
Yep. If you do any of that stuff, you will have value and will not be turned into slaves. Probably. Let's see here. Cigarettes. And I go over, my rant on cigarettes because I'm so mixed on it because you know how dangerous they are, but you also know how people crave them.
Oh yeah.
And they will, I literally went out and bought several cartons of cigarettes. And yeah, they're old. People won't care. Sealed in the pack, Marlboro hard packs. Absolutely. People will.
How much were cartons of cigarettes when you bought them?
Huh?
How much did a carton of cigarettes cost when you bought them?
$100.
One carton?
Yeah.
$100?
Wait, am I right? Wait, how much is well, it was no. It's way cheaper than it is now. Let's put it that way. So
$100 is expensive. Like, okay, when I remember a carton of cigarettes costing like $25.
Maybe it was 100 for all. Maybe it was 100 for all three. I bought 3 cartons.
Okay, well if you spent 30,
I think about spent $100.
That might be close. That might be for all 3. Then for $100, that's probably
But again, if anyone's so I make a plea to like hardcore smokers. I'm just going, look, if things got really really bad, take your cigarettes and just bury them somewhere, or put them in a cupboard where you can't get to them.
Those bags of tobacco, those big bags that come sealed.
Oh, if you're gonna roll your own,
Yeah.
sure. Prescription drugs, and I list off, a lot of the stuff that people, that have value. All the painkillers, mood stabilizers, stimulants. You'd be amazed how many of those would have value, and if the generic names. I mean, there's tons of stuff. Even Ritalin.
Ritalin.
Seriously, I mean, I rattle them off. Oxy, Darvon, Vicodin, Demerol, Meberol, Nembutal. I don't know much of these. Valium, Librium, Xanax, Prosom, Dexedrine, so on and so on and so on. I
might have some Valium, but it's probably out of date by like years now.
Who cares? Who cares? If it has any potency at all, it will still be worth something. Seriously, don't throw any of it away. Put it in plastic bags, date it, put a label on it, put it in your first aid kit. I guarantee I have seen too many drug people that, I mean, come on, there's a huge addiction problem in this country when it comes to opioids and all the other things. I mean, and most of it's legal. That's the scary part. And most of it's just freaking sitting in medicine cabinets. I mean, that's going to be the thing we'll get into that in a second. Let's see here. Black market drugs, of course, those will dry up almost instantly because where are you going to get those? Marijuana, it's not black market anymure, but like Coke,
it's growing everywhere.
Yeah. Marijuana will be the new new major drug of choice, but everything else like Coke and heroin, it's going to be tough to do because you can't import it easily from anywhere. And let's see here. What else? Guns, of course, shotguns versus rifles, pistols versus, revolvers versus, semi-autos, and so on and so on. I break down actually every caliber, what you might be able to do with it. And the short version for everybody out there is just fire the biggest. The old rule of war has never changed, which is fire the biggest thing that you can, that you are physically able to do, if you can. If you're that's the short version. Don't, if you're a 300-pound guy, a 22 rifle probably is going to be a waste. But if you're weigh 100 pounds, don't use a freaking big game gun.
Yeah, don't get out the Desert Eagle.
Yeah, no, don't. Physics are physics, and you don't want to wreck your shoulder.
I think a 22 is a good all-around weapon, though, for people to have.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah, crank off rounds. They're cheap. You can hit small game with them.
They're small, yeah.
And it still is a bullet. It hurts a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you can put the hurt on and kill somebody with a 22 if you really had to. I mean,
you absolutely can.
It's not
not right away. I mean, you got a headshot, but I mean, look at the Joey Buttafuoco case. I think he was hit with like a 25. He's still around, isn't he?
Yeah. Well.
What else? So I go over every caliber, and then I go into, and I have to bring this up. I don't know if did you ever read my manual entirely? Did you ever?
Yeah.
Did you? I go into looting eventually, which is, should you loot or should you not loot?
Well, it depends how bad things get.
Well, yeah, but things get really, really bad, and just know there's people out there that will loot. And they'll loot quickly. I mean, we've seen it too many times in the past. If they'll willing to do it in broad daylight in retail. I mean, look at Katrina. Look what happened in New Orleans.
Was bad. That was crazy.
Yeah, everyone.
Even the cops were looting. Katrina.
Katrina. So here's what happens. A lot of people don't know this, and I'll warn you guys right up front, which is ever since Costco and Sam's Club and all those things came out, local governments created a contingency plan, whether it be mayors or governors or whoever it is, that SWAT teams, special weapons teams, they immediately take over those places. Straight up. That's what happened in New Orleans. It's like, if it's not flooded, they go in, they close the steel doors. Remember, Costco's got no windows.
Yeah.
They closed the steel doors, and they've got enough stuff there to create a working government for months if they had to. And that's, so don't even think about it. Don't even think about doing Costco. I wrote this in there. It's like people go, oh my God, dude, we should totally do Sam's Club. I got so much stuff. It's like you're going to have a parking lot of 1,000 people and no one's going to be getting in because it's going to be police on the inside. And that's just, oh my God, it's phenomenal. I mean, you could do a movie just on that scenario because you remember the cops, warning to police that might be listening, you better bring a whole bunch of ammo because you're going to have to squeeze off rounds basically every few minutes just to keep those people at bay. Because you get 1,000 people, that's like ants just trying to get in this place. It's a big, big building. But when it comes to looting, I give tips on everywhere you should go. Don't go to your grocery store immediately. Don't go to Costco. Don't do this. Hit the places that everybody else will obviously go to right away. And don't loot any. And of course, the last thing I mentioned is on the looting thing is don't go to people's houses. That is your last option. Good, good small businesses, places that are abandoned. That's fine. But if you go to, you're asking for trouble because then you're walking into a situation where there's people just like you. And what are you prepared to do? And it could get potentially ugly. I even did a section on, and this is going to sound terrible, but everybody knows somebody, which is the whole Mormon situation.
The Mormon situation.
You may not know this, but Mormons, part of their religion is they have in their homes, it's required, a year's worth of food for every member of the house. And they rotate that stock on a regular basis. It's absolutely true. And which is so sad because that means Utah will have all this food, all these resources on a just waiting. But of course there's lots of Mormons living all over the country. And so, and I write this because people are going to be it'll be kind of strange. You're going to be looting this house. And it's like, wait, why is this house being defended with so many guns? And why, if you got in for whatever reason, why is there so much food? It's because they're Mormon. And so I try to play both sides, and I'm not trying to say go get the Mormons or anything like that. I'm saying if you're a Mormon, you just shoot first and shoot often. if anyone figures that out, no, because they don't advertise it. They don't know. It's like what why do they park their cars outside their garage? It's like because their garage is full of food. That's why. Yeah, kind of weird.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't. They don't advertise
as Mormons in them, and I never really asked them about it though. Yeah. I just know that you can't go in the temple if you're not a Mormon.
Yeah, and there's rooms. I mean, they have big houses because they have big families, but they also have a dedicated room, a pantry that's just massive. Think about it. If you have a family of five. A year's worth for those 5 people. That's a lot of food, a lot of canned food.
Have an entire room at least.
Yeah, you would, and they do. And if they don't, they usually use their garage, and stack it to the freaking ceiling with stuff.
I think I have a decent sized pantry, but I couldn't fit a year's worth of food in there for even one person. I don't think. It's an interesting
take, but yeah. So. I imagine the military has a contingency plan. It's like if supplies run low, they just roll into Utah and just go to any neighborhood and just start emptying out because we're talking about massive pantries in any of these places. What else? Hang on here. Oh yeah, looting equipment. Here's my quick looting equipment guide. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Nylon or leather bags for your loot. Entry tool, light source. That's it. And then be defensive.
That's it.
That's it. Well, I mean, I go into there's a paragraph.
List.
The what?
A looting list.
The looting list. Well, the tools you'll need to defensive device, distraction device. If you want to, always good to create a distraction somewhere else if you think you might get caught. Like with anything, that's just crime.
Bombs. Some gloves, some utility gloves.
Yep.
Might be good to have.
Yep. I break down distraction techniques. Fire is usually the easiest one. And then we go over danger zones, places not to loot. There's a Mormon supply house. And then we go into advanced stuff. Like if you actually made it that far, what you could do afterwards. And then of course, if you made it far enough to where you actually got to the looting, well, then here's what you could expect after that. And then if the bullets run out. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 10. If the bullets run out, what are you looking at? Let's see. Brass knuckles, aluminum bat, knife, flammable liquid, martial arts, which I don't recommend. Throwing things.
Throwing things, like
throwing things, just anything. Now think about it. I mean, if you're in some sort of anything, whatever it is. I mean, seriously, it's weird. When we take guns out of the equation, it gets pretty savage. It gets down to, just whatever's around you. Let's see.
I have a bow. That's one thing that comes in handy if that happens. I have a compound bow.
I actually kind of lump that into the firearms part, which is crossbows are kind of a hybrid, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. But
they're not as easy to use, I think, as a bow.
The reason why I don't put bows like right up there is because in any sort of bows are meant for a kind of open air type thing. You don't see people in the exception of the movies walking around hallways with a bow.
No, right.
Crossbow, maybe, or a little pistol crossbow, maybe. But
I mean, if it gets to the point where you have to start hunting for food, or you never know.
Right. Somebody said, did I add
your perimeter?
Add ski mask to the looting list? Yeah, potentially, sure. If you don't want people to recognize you, I suppose. Although you would hope that you wouldn't see him again. Hopefully. Balaclavas or ski masks or whatever you got, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Pepper spray, still give you some sort of advantage, but pepper spray, every time I've read a story about pepper spray, it always ends with, there's that blowback. You hit somebody with pepper spray at point blank, you're gonna get some on you. And then, then you're both of you are just kind of flailing around, and it's like, just never. I never liked that too much. But anyway, the manual, just so you guys know, if you want it, again, it's free. It covers all this fun stuff, everything from the first hour to if you made it like a year later, what you would run into. Even building your own trading post, building your own trading community where you could, create some sort of barter economy in your immediate area and your range and some strategies going down that road. But if you want it, please do email me at msargent23@comcast.net. That's MSARGENT 23@comcast.net, and you'll get the survival guide called Empty Shelves with this thing, organizing your corner of an American apocalypse. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sounds very, very friendly, doesn't it?
Indeed.
What other things? Depending on your climate, firewood, that's important. Heat, bundling up
for a heat source.
A lot of people aren't going to have firewood, which is unfortunate. And if you're in a really, really cold climate, think about relocating. If you're up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, it's probably the winters could get brutal. Awful, depending on when something. Although those places don't really get earthquakes or any sort of big national thing. What else? What else comes to mind? Anything that's? How about the ability to actually, what are you willing to do to protect your family? Type thing. Lots of people think, they can do it. They can defend their family, but others just kind of roll over.
Yeah.
Where that's like, oh, just take anything you want. Just don't hurt my family, right? It's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever be that person. because
I have a couple of books that I bought too that if anybody wants to try, I think they're good books. I
what are
got
they?
Prepper's Home Defense, Security Strategies to Protect Your Family by Any Means Necessary.
Nice.
So this has a lot of good advice on how to protect your home and your family.
Nice.
And then this one also Prepper's Long-Term Survival Guide, Food, Shelter, Security, Off-the-Grid Power,
Right.
Life-Saving Strategies for Self-Sufficient Living, canning, preserving food. If you that's another thing. If you
Oh yeah.
if you live like where I live, depending on where you live, you either prep to stay or you prep to go as far as long-term stuff goes, right? You either have to go somewhere or you have to stay and then change the way you do things where you're staying.
Right.
I prep to stay because I live in the country and it's like, I already garden and do all that stuff. So, having food preservation things like having a canner, pressure canner, or just the canning supplies, mason jars, canning tops, all that stuff. I mean, it's a little bit of an investment in the beginning when you start doing it, but once you have all the stuff, you just reuse it over and over and over again.
Right. Good point. Excellent point. Somebody, by the way, said, and I there was a topic I didn't cover in the book because somebody said condoms, and you know what? I didn't cover sex because I just seemed too dicey to put into a prepper book. But yeah, condoms. Why not?
I mean, whatever you think is important.
Yeah.
I'll show you guys some other stuff that I have purchased that I bought. Just the stuff to have around just in case. Okay, this is stuff.
Sure, we got.
I have this. I haven't used it yet. It's just been sitting in my closet. It's a water purifier.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got
Sargent Sidewinder water purifier. It's hand purified. So like you put the water inside this thing, right? And then you crank it and the power from your hand powers this UV thing that kills any bacteria or whatever that could be in the water, harmful bacteria, viruses, whatever, with this UV light. And then
cover for me.
Okay. And then here, I'll change it. Well, let's see. So that you see that, and does like a liter at a time. So you probably would have to, if you have a water source, like from a spring, like a running water source where the water is already pretty clean, you can put the water in here, hand crank it, kills any pathogens or whatever that could be in the water. And then you have drinkable water. And this does up to like 8,000 liters.
I'm back.
So this will last a long time. This will last up to 8,000 liters. So that's one thing I have. I haven't tried it yet. I should take it out to try it, but
Yep, some bleach, by the way, always good. Depending on was it 8 drops of bleach per gallon? I think, and you shake it up. But really, you got some flexibility there because if it tastes too bleachy or if you're getting stomach issues because of it.
Tastes too bleachy.
Again, you're not going to care that much because water is, you're drinking water. Hey, great, fantastic.
All right. Sorry, excuse me. I'm getting another drink.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the water, of course, I can't overstate this enough, is your number one priority.
Water is number one priority for sure.
So you can boil it, you can add bleach to it. If you have to filter it, filter it through a t-shirt first, and then a coffee filter, and then another coffee filter.
Different things, like it might even be good to have like a few handkerchiefs or whatever in your pack, and then you can filter it through multiple handkerchiefs, and then use whatever method you have to kill whatever pathogens could be in the water to make it drinkable.
Right.
And there you have your way to get water, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And
what?
And what? What were you gonna say?
Oh no, water far and away. There is nothing. I mean, people That is the one that people just overlook. They just don't. It just hits them later. It's like, holy crap, we're gonna run out of water.
Yeah.
Food, you can, just about anything out there. What great thing about any sort of crisis situation is everything tastes better.
There's a lot of places to get food supply packs now that you can get.
Oh yeah.
I haven't bought any yet. Have you ever bought any of those? Do you have any of them?
What do you mean, like MREs?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, yeah, I bought them for years.
MREs or like any sort of just emergency food supply package.
Yeah. Either the freeze dried stuff or the MRE stuff that's already, the military rations. Canned, just the energy bar, just the energy packs that you see in Coast Guard things. I've eaten all of them at one point or another, just to test them out. And again, they're edible. It comes down to when you're hungry, your taste buds, everything gets tastes better,
Right.
and so if it's got if it's got calories in it, you'll eat it. I guarantee it. So you don't have to worry. And of course, eat all your perishables first. That's a no-brainer. It's the only time I ever encourage overeating. It's like, look, it's gonna go bad. Cook it up. If you know how to cure meat, hey, great. You probably bought yourself a whole bunch of time. Trying to think of anything else.
I have this other thing that I bought for like my little survival emergency kit. This goes to the sanitation part.
Yeah.
And also goes to the water. It's a camp shower.
Got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Camp
so
showers.
You fill it with water and then you hang it up in the sun. Up in the sun, and then it has this shower thing that attaches to it, and then you can clean yourself with warm water or clean whatever with warm water, because when you hang this up in the sun, the black bag heats up the water.
Yep.
And it gives you warm, clean water to wash with. So
and that leads me to something else, which is, again, hygiene.
Yeah, hygiene. You want to be able to clean yourself. It makes you feel better. It does a lot for your morale to be able to clean yourself, wash yourself, and all that stuff.
Absolutely. It's even sponge baths. There's a reason why they do it at hospitals. It's a reason why you should do it at home, which is just don't be. I know it's too easy, especially for guys. I'm talking to guys here. Guys tend to slip into that. I don't have to take a shower for like 3 weeks. Like, yeah, you do. Do something, because if you smell really horrible and if you don't notice it, if you don't pick up on it, fine, but other people will, and then it's gross. It is. It's just because it's there's a certain level of civility and hygiene goes with that. Which is, every time you see, again, not to pick on the movies too much, every time you see, the movie Apocalypse guy, the one that's coming after you with a machete, he always looks like he hasn't showered in probably 6 months. He looks horrible. He looks really, really horrible. That's the big point here, which is you're trying to keep civility and some semblance of civilization around you, just some structure, and so that you can keep hopefully you can build that up over time, because if you all of a sudden, or you could just give up and just go freaking gonzo nuts, but that's not productive,
right?
So what else?
Another thing that I have, which is this is more for ladies. When you find yourself in a situation where you need to use the restroom and you don't feel comfortable, exposing your butt, whatever. This thing called a Go Girl. You know what this is?
Wait a minute. Hang on. What?
It's I guess I haven't opened this all the way yet either. But it's basically, it's this little thing. It's this thing it makes it so women can stand up to pee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's so you can go to the bathroom and putting yourself in a compromising position as a female. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sure. No, it does. It does. Absolutely. What? What I'm not doesn't weird me out. Are you kidding? That's a great thing. I didn't even know that was a product.
You didn't?
Nope. It doesn't surprise me.
I think there's a couple of them. There's this one that's called Go Girl.
Of course.
And there's also one called Shiwi. Shiwi.
To think that a room of people came up with that name, it's brilliant.
But hey, man, if you're a woman, this is something you got to think about.
I agree.
You know, you don't want to be hanging your butt out in some strange area. You don't know who's lurking around, you know? You never know.
Which segues into something else I want to bring up, which is know the people that I know that some of us, when you get into a crisis mode, you just want to be around anybody. It's like, oh, I'm so glad you're around, but be aware of people with ulterior motives. Because if you don't know them, you don't know them, and people are, it's the long con and the short con. People will, if they look at your resources and they know that they can, eventually turn on you one day, they will. So don't, the old saying that I've said so much, which is, trust everyone, but count your change. Yeah. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Sure. But don't give them every benefit of the doubt. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go out and look for firewood. You watch the house and all the supplies. I'll be gone for like 4 hours. Don't do that, because if you come back and they're gone, and along with everything, look, it happens. Why not? Everyone tends to look out for themselves. Even if you trust your neighbors, unless you're lifelong friends with somebody, just don't immediately think that everyone's trustworthy. Just don't. Give them some slack, sure, but don't give them blind trust. I covered that in the manual as well, which is I did like a neighbor scenario, because everyone's got their thing. And that's another thing I got to mention. If you're in a group of people, I talk about groups of people. If you're going to band together, it's like, because there's a lot of people aren't like in your situation. They're in cul-de-sacs, they're in neighborhoods, they're in streets. Mm-hmm. If you're banding together with people, find out as much as you can about them
right
up front. And one of the first things you have to find out, and I hate to say this, but it's especially nowadays, but I include this in the manual thing, which is find out who's on prescription drugs right now, because there's a lot of people on them, and because those prescriptions are going to run out eventually. Now you can cut the doses in half and cut them in half again, but if they're on mood stabilizers, if they're on, and you're thinking, well, so what if they're on mood stabilizers? Like, well, because if you're on, let's say, I don't know, 50 milligrams of Xanax a day, if you haven't read up on your pharmaceuticals over the years, you can't go cold turkey with Xanax. They have to take you off, like the hospital will transfer you from Xanax to morphine for a while.
Really?
Yeah, low grades of morphine.
They like scale it back, like they just reduce the dosage.
Oh yeah, they do, but they also put you on something else. It's the prescription drugs we have nowadays are actually more powerful than the street drugs in a lot of cases. And so, and what I'm saying is, when you can't go cold turkey, because you could potentially have a psychotic episode. So if you've got someone that's on a whole bunch of mood stabilizers and they're going to run out, don't immediately, when they say, oh yeah, I'd love a shotgun. It's like, no, you can't get a shotgun until, there's going to be a period where you're going to have to watch them. And you're going to have to look at them and say, okay, you're going to have to ask them on basically every so many hours, hey, how you doing? Hanging in there? How you doing? And if they start, like clawing at their arms and start whispering to things that aren't there, I know, and I don't like to bring it up, but
it's true though. I'm so glad I'm not on any prescription drugs. I am not on any prescription drugs, by the way.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Because again, it's one of those things the prescription drugs help a lot of people with a lot of things. But if all of a sudden those prescriptions can't be refilled, you got a problem. And that's and it's literally it's one of my oops, what did I do? I'm still good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I still see.
No, I hit a button. I probably shouldn't have. It's one of those things that you really do have to ask a group of people. Just ask them up front. It's like, look, is anyone on prescription drugs? And don't be mean about it. Just say, look, whatever you're on, cut your dosage right now. I don't know how many pills are left in the bottle, but just start cutting, ramp down as fast as humanly possible and hope that, and those people, of course, again, it's not that sometimes the person people you're dealing with are untrustworthy. It's because they're, having to deal with symptoms and side effects, withdrawals. I mean, I don't know how many people you've dealt with withdrawals. I know you've done with a few, but yeah, they're not exactly in the best place in the world to make good life decisions.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you can think of off the top of your head? I've got so many little things, but I don't necessarily want to break down the minutia of like why certain water filters are better than others. I give
what kind of water filter would you recommend someone have?
Oh, I don't know the brand name in front of me. It's one of those pump. It's really great. You can get them on Amazon. There's so many water filters out there.
They have those life straws where you just drink right through the straw.
I've got several of the small portable ones that can crank through like 5,000 gallons, and I mean it's hand pump activated. But yeah, it's like a variation of the life straw. I can't remember what it's called. I don't do brand names in the manual. Also, don't. Oh, here's something real quick. Don't. Something that just occurred to me. So, like, lots of people go out and they buy portable radios and do all this stuff. Like it's like, oh, we got to find out what's going on. Get portable radios, and then they regret. It's like, oh, I didn't buy one. We're screwed. It's like, no, actually, you got a wonderful portable radio, and heated seats, and all this other stuff. It's your freaking car. Your car has so many things in it that people take for granted, including light. You can use. I mean, even you don't even have to run it. Just use the freaking battery. It's got a rechargeable battery. It's got all these wonderful things. A lot of people in a crisis situation, because hell, they do it now in different cities all over the place. They just live in their cars. And in a crisis situation, you could live in a car. And if you've got something with a folding seat and everything, you can sleep. Happens every day.
Yeah,
people sleep in the car, especially in Hollywood, waiting for their big break. It's true. That was Michael J. Fox, a perfect example. He was living in his car and making phone calls from a freaking payphone just before he got Family Ties.
Wow.
I know.
I did not know that. I knew Jewel was living in her car.
Yeah, so many were. I mean, that's this thing. Look, you're waiting. You're holding out for what are you willing to do to stay in Los Angeles without going into porn? Let's see. Fire extinguishers, first aid kits.
I forgot you could show comments on the screen.
Oh, right.
Totally forgot.
PatriotSupply.com. Mark is screaming the obvious and hope people are listening. Oh, thanks. Well, it's true though. I mean, look, okay, let's circle back. Let's circle back to now, right? Forget about the earthquake scenario, because I've always been a big believer that the big moves, the big moves by the powers that be will be televised, because that's the whole reason they set up the infrastructure to begin with. It's like, you're not going to set up social media and 6 billion smartphones and then turn it all off right away. You're going to use it to your advantage as long as you can. So to get back to the virus thing, the coronavirus, what we're seeing right now is just the beginning of a very slow, and they're kind of giving us the real small doses of fear. slowly but surely. Not enough to where, not hands in the air, screaming panic type thing, but which you shouldn't. You shouldn't panic about this because it's happening so slowly that if anyone panics about this now, well, you're going to run out of gas by the time we get into the end of March, because the pace is at a snail's right now. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. I mean, yeah, the market's going to continue to drop. They'll just keep adding cases. And what they can do now, but they can just add more states. They'll say, oh, Wyoming's got a couple cases and Minnesota's got 3. And, the numbers will, they'll these charts that they'll just keep throwing at us all over the news stations, especially CNN, and they'll tie it to the president's approval rating in the market, all of this big circle. But the thing is, and let me sort of wind down with this. There's a problem there, and that is if you create too much fear, then the election kind of becomes irrelevant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, it's like fine, you want to erode the presidency to the point where it becomes where it's a toss up. Sure, I suppose you could do that, but if you make it too much, if the public is too scared, then the administration can step in. It's like, no, we're going to suspend elections until this problem is resolved. It's like, okay, which wouldn't be a stretch because we're not even talking about a third term. We're only in the second term. It's only been extended once, and that was Roosevelt during World War II. So him extending it's not even a constitutional issue. You can just say, oh yeah, we'll suspend elections until we solve this. If it goes that far, if it goes all the way to October, let's say. I don't know. Maybe. It's just so weird.
Someone was asking why we decided why did a stream on this subject, and just because of all the stuff that's been going on in the news.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring it up. It's not about fear porn. We're not pushing fear porn. We definitely don't think that we're not here to tell everybody to get freaked out about the coronavirus or anything like that.
No, and don't be freaked about it. I mean, if anything, don't be freaked out about the coronavirus because what's happening is not what a virus does. This is not how a really contagious virus acts, and it's not the headlines. It's everything that they're telling you is not what they would tell you if it was really, really serious. I'm not saying that it's not going to escalate because that's the whole point, but it's escalating just way too slowly for what it should be. Seriously, if tomorrow is March, and if it was real, there'd be cases everywhere, and there'd be hospitals, with beds that you couldn't find a hospital bed. And you're telling me that there's really one case, the entire, one fatality in the whole state of Washington? It's real? Again, show me the faces. Show me the names. We still haven't seen anything yet. Just people in masks. That's all we see, which prompts people. What'd you think was going to happen there? So yeah, all they did was showing people, and mostly Asian people in masks. And what do you think happens? People just start running to hardware stores and grabbing every allergy mask humanly possible. You cannot keep them on the shelves, and people were selling them for like $20 a piece on Amazon. Just price gouging masks.
So silly.
Like, really, because I hardly saw anyone in masks when I was traveling around recently.
Yeah,
just didn't see it. So yeah, don't panic. But at the same time,
colloidal silver. Get some colloidal silver. Yeah. Keep that with you too. That's a good thing to have on hand.
But I think it's a good reminder of how fragile our normal everyday life is. And it's something I harped about in the beginning of this manual, which is, look, we are such hypocrites, which is we have home insurance, we have auto, we have health, we have dental, we have vision, we have all this different insurance. You'll pay through the nose for that, but you won't spend a couple $100, if that, and buy some some bottles of water, some canned food, some flashlights, put them in your basement, and then not look at them anymore. Why won't you do that? Just do it, just in case something bad comes along. And it doesn't have to be a meteor or, the Walking Dead or, a big Bigfoot infestation. It doesn't have to be any of those things. All All it has to do is be a disruption in civil services. That's all it has to do. Just prepare a little bit. Come on. Why not? It's not that hard. People won't look at you strange. I mean, you go to Costco, pick up a couple cases of water and a case of peanuts. No one's going to look at you twice. Then put it in your basement and don't touch it. That's the other thing, by the way, is people always just dip into their survival supplies all the time.
Yeah. Well, eventually that stuff gets old, and you should cycle it out.
Yeah, but it's not hard to just go and start. It doesn't cost that much. Even $100 will get you a lot. I mean, and you're thinking, oh, it's $100. It's like, no. You better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Because if you want it and you don't have it, you're going to be kicking yourself all day long. And by the other thing, print out. If I send you the manual, print it out. Seriously, I couldn't get my family to print it out. So one year for Christmas, some years ago, I actually I had a bookbinding company print them out, and I gave it to them for Christmas. That way my conscience was clear, absolutely clear. It's like, you know what? I gave it to you. You have nothing to talk about. You can't come back and say, oh, you should have warned me. No.
Yeah. I actually have a whole bunch of PDFs that I want to print out and like put in binders and stuff. I need to do that. Anyway.
So that's all I got. I mean, most of it's basic sense. Prepping is not rocket surgery. It never has been.
Surgery.
It's not.
No, it doesn't have to be hard. Just think about the things that you use every day the most and stock up on that.
Yeah.
Have some self-defense, have some backup for the stuff you need. If you have a pet, get some backup food for your pet too. Don't forget them.
Yep. Oh yeah, pet food. Although, by the way, there's also a thing I have in there, which is don't kill domestic animals. Because in fact, domestic animals can be so useful because they know where the food is. They will smell out the food.
I think if you have a dog, that's a benefit.
Huge.
To have with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
dogs can hear better than you. They can smell better than you.
Their protection, their warning, they find things.
Their instincts are on alert pretty much anytime they're outside of the house anyway. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's really what I got. I got a manual. Again, I wrote it after Katrina because I was so pissed off because the Americans wouldn't even bother prepping after Katrina. And it just drove me insane. I know I probably prepped too much over the years, but at the same time, why the hell not? For me, it was kind of a hobby, and I learned so much by doing it. Learned to talk, by talking to everybody that was into prepping. And you don't have to buy a bomb shelter necessarily.
You really don't have to buy a whole ton of stuff. And you can just make out a list of things that you want, and just over the course of a few weeks, you can pick up one thing here, one thing there, blah blah blah. Before you know it, you have everything that you want. Put it in a big tub, put it in a bag or whatever.
And just because, let me throw one more thing out here. Just because you have a bug out bag, or you get a bug out bag, because that's what a lot of people do. You've seen this many times. It's on Amazon. You can buy bug out bags. You don't have to bug out. It's people get bug out bags because, in case I have to hike into the woods. That's the other thing I got to mention is the average person is not going to do well in any sort of situation where they have to trap rabbits and build a fire on their own and basically act like they're on an episode of Survivor. That's not going to happen. Stay where you're comfortable. If you're not forced out of your home, stay in your freaking home, or stay in a home. There's tons and tons and tons and tons of housing in this country. Find a place. If you have to squat in some other place, that's fine. But living in the woods, unless that's your thing and you're really accustomed to do the whole Rambo scenario, fine. But most people aren't. Seriously, it's like, I'm going to make a bear trap, do all these things. I'm going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, set up all these things. Like, no. You're not that guy or woman. You just be where you're comfortable. Start there and then work outside your comfort zone, because you're already going to be freaked out. Once your home becomes uncomfortable, you got to deal with that first.
Yeah.
Most people don't understand. If the power goes out, or if your resources are low, your home all of a sudden becomes foreign to you. It becomes a whole new thing. So that's all I got, Karen.
All right.
So again, if anyone wants my free manual, which I wrote up, and I swear it's not as ranty as you might think, it's pretty funny. I make a lot of try to keep it as light as possible. You can email me at msargent23@comcast.net. It's msargent23@comcast.net. It's just a 2 meg file. I'll send it to you. It's even got graphics. It's pretty nice, actually.
It's fancy.
The what?
It's fancy.
It is. It's fancy. It's festive. It covers decorating, window treatments. It's a lot of realistic stuff, which is like, look, just get your head in the right place. In fact, the first couple chapters are really just your headspace. It's like, look, here's what's happening. Deal with it. Don't freak out.
Yeah, don't freak out.
When you freak out, you make terrible decisions. Don't run. Don't just start doing this frantic thing and just start like rushing to your closet and throwing clothes and jamming stuff into bags. It's like no. Just take it easy. Everything's gonna be fine. Just know here's some things you might be able. In fact, I designed it for people that literally had nothing. Like I swear that was my starting point was, you know what? You didn't save anything. You got like 2 cans of tuna in the whole place, maybe some mayonnaise. That's all you got. This is where you start. Fill up things with water, do this, do that. You'll be fine. This is where the food is in case you want to venture out. This is where things are. Just work your way slowly but surely. You'll be okay. And my last thing comes to the coronavirus, don't panic. It'll be fine. Just know, in fact, read the headlines with skepticism. Know why headlines are doing what they are doing. Know why they're telling you things in this light. Because
it's more this whole thing is more just to manipulate the economy and
yeah, it is. I mean, it's if not to be, let's do the doom and gloom side. If it was really as bad as they said it is, that's it. There's nothing you can do. It's over. But if that was the case,
it was really as bad as they said it is, by the time I actually heard about coronavirus, it would have been too late.
Yeah. That's again, anyone has any doubts, watch. It was the most realistic depiction I've ever seen, done by a fantastic director. Watch Contagion, because once it hits a certain stage, everybody gets infected really, 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 really quickly. I mean, we're all in the same boat, and again, there's so many people that travel on any given day, thousands of flights. The whole world would have been infected. All industrialized nations would have been infected in a week, and they weren't. So why are we talking about this 2 months later? When they're saying, "Oh, the first person died." It's like, what? It's not possible. Not. All right. That's it. Did I miss anything in chat?
I
was trying to read chat, but I was ranting too much.
Yeah, they're just bickering back and forth. Get chickens. Someone says get chickens. Chickens are great.
Oh yeah, if you have the place to use chickens, sure. It's not going to help you in an apartment building. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you're in a major city, yeah, get out. If something ever got really bad, not because of the coronavirus. If the power went out, if an earthquake ever happened in a major city, find some relatives that are outside the city, go there.
Yeah, I would just try to get out of a city if you could, just anyway.
Yeah, New Orleans was a perfect example of that. So, well, Karen.
All right, Mark. Well, thank you for joining me.
Oh, yes. I was happy to do this with you, and you and I are going to be doing this again on Tuesday. Although, and we may talk about more about who knows by then. Can't wait to see what happens to the market on Monday. But
oh yeah, no kidding.
I mean, come on, you do a press conference like that today, and the Democrats are going to be pushing their stuff today and tomorrow. What do you think's going to happen? It's like, don't panic. God, people are calling their brokers right now. Going, It's okay. Have everything ready to move in the first hour.
Absolutely. All right.
All right. Hey, it was a slice, and thanks to everybody in chat. I don't know who else is on there. Again, anyone wants the book, just email me.
Screen if you guys want to get a copy of Empty Shelves, the prepper book that Mark wrote, the PDF.
Yeah. PDF totally free. I'll send it to you. It's fun, and if it saves even one life, yeah, it's worth it.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Also, before we go, I'm going to do a plug for my good friend Zulu. He is having Crow 777 on night school with him tonight.
Oh, right. That starts like pretty soon, right?
In an hour. So
Okay.
I'm putting a link in the chat. So everybody here should go check that out. Have a late night school discussion with Crow 777 and Zulu 1. So should be cool.
Groovy.
All right, Mark, thank you for joining me in this discussion on prepping, basic prepping tips. And don't panic. Coronavirus is a hoax.
Don't panic. We're all gonna die. Nah, it's fine.
All right, see everybody later.